Hey there, it's chapter 6 of Dr. Wayne Dyer's Being in Balance, 9 Principles for Creating Habits to Match Your Desires. This is Linda G. Robert, your Back in the Groove Again coach, helping you live your best life now so you can love what you do. Chapter 6, you can't discover light by analyzing the darkness, balancing your desire for prosperity with your habits of scarcity. And here's a quote. Wayne Dyer always starts with a quote. God wills us to have everything. As we express life, we fulfill God's law of abundance. But we do this only as we realize that there is good enough to go around. Only as we know that all of God's gifts are given us freely and fully as the air and the sunshine. Ernest Holmes. And another quote. Every man is free to rise as far as he's willing, as far as he's able or willing, but it's only the degree to which he thinks that determines the degree to which he'll rise. Ayn Rand. Each of his chapters start with 2 quotes. All right, here we go. If you had to search for light, the one thing you'd obviously shun would be the darkness. You'd know for certain that spending your time analyzing dark places and wallowing around blindly in the dark wouldn't be the way to discover and experience the light. Now exchange the words light and dark in this example for the words abundance and scarcity. The same logic should now apply. You can't find abundance by analyzing and wallowing around in scarcity consciousness. Yet this is often why a disparity exists between your desire for prosperity and the lack of it in your life. Review the observation offered by Ernest Holmes in the quote at the beginning of this chapter. As we express life, we fulfill God's law of abundance. Think of this as a legally binding dictum from God, as a law. Even St. Paul observed that God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance. I draw the conclusion that prosperity is something that's always available because this is descriptive of the source from which we originated. If we came from unlimited abundance, then we must be what we came from. Scarcity isn't a problem because of where you were born or what your parents accumulated or the state of the economy. The so-called problem of scarcity is due to the simple fact that you tipped your belief away from your original connection to unlimited abundance and began to live in and analyze scarcity, the equivalent of darkness, in the first paragraph of this chapter. I advocate making a shift toward analyzing the light of prosperity and correcting this imbalance between what you desire and the way you're living. How you avoid expressing life and fail to fulfill God's law of abundance. In order to express life and be the recipient of God's blessing for abundance, you need to know when you have thoughts and behaviors that unbalance your desires. The voice of your balanced position is something I've repeatedly written about in this book. You become what you think about all day long. Here's a list of out-of-balance type situations. Dwelling on what's missing from your life. Conversations that are heavily weighted with what's lacking in your life. Complaining to whoever will listen about all of the reasons you've been prevented from having more. Cultivating an inner picture of yourself as a person who's just plain unlucky. These ways of thinking and being set into motion are an energy pattern that attracts precisely what you activate into your life. If you think scarcity, you'll create scarcity. If you talk to others around about your lack, you'll just attract more lack. If you analyze your shortages, then more shortages will appear. I am aware that this may seem simplistic. That is, just change your thinking and money will come flying in your window. But before dismissing this, consider that out of balance existence is asking you to notice what barriers and resistance you've erected in a world where God is available to provide you with all blessings in abundance. Removing your resistance. Your desire to attract prosperity represents a highly spiritual request. It's perfectly attuned to the law of abundance from which you originated. Your imbalances are energies in the form of thoughts that you mistakenly believe will bring about the desired prosperity. Following are 7 of the most common thoughts that make the manifestation of prosperity virtually impossible. I call these the unmagnificent 7 because each belief. So here are the 7 thought systems that keep you out of balance. Number 1, it's not God's will. By blaming God for not having what you need or desire, you justify a built-in excuse for accepting your lot in life. In reality, as St. Paul reminds us, God is more than willing to provide you with the blessing of abundance. In fact, God is pure abundance, but you're the one out of balance on the prosperity scale. By putting the responsibility for your shortages on divine will, you create enormous resistance energetically. By putting the responsibility for your shortages on divine will, you create enormous resistance energetically. You're asking the universe to send you more of what you believe in. The solution to removing this barrier, which applies to all 7 of these resistance energies, is changing the belief. Carlos Castaneda, writing in Journey to Ixtlan, said, "If I really felt that my spirit was distorted, I should simply fix it, purge it, make it perfect, because there was no other task in our entire lives which was not worthwhile." How do you fix it, purge it, and make it perfect? By first catching yourself in the midst of fallacious thought and replacing that thought with something like, "I am creation of God. God is abundant. I must be what I came from." Being like what I came from means that God wants me to enjoy the fulfillment of prosperity. The fullness of prosperity. Reading out loud is quite challenging, especially when you're being recorded. So this is how I'm going to express life from now on. If necessary, print these affirmations and refer to them until they're a perfectly balanced reminder. Your lack is not God's fault. You have choice, so you choose to reconnect to abundance or stay out of balance, believing that that is God's plan for you. Number 2, there's a limited supply. This thought represents enormous resistance to a restoration of balance on the prosperity scarcity scale. Thoughts such as, "There's only so much to go around, and everyone can't be wealthy. We need poor people to sustain a balance in the world. So I guess I'm just one of those poor people," are similar thoughts of limitation and won't attract a prosperous life. In fact, they'll make that aim absolutely unattainable. Once again, the solution for removing this kind of resistance is to purge it and replace these thoughts with new energies that match up more harmoniously with the truth of the world that you live in. Try thinking of money in the context still remains the same. Here's how it works. Abundance is scooped from abundance, and abundance remains. You can purge the idea of shortages from your mind completely and begin seeing money as energy in infinite supply. It's necessary for life, just like air, water, nitrogen, and carbon. Number 3, I don't deserve it. Here, a simple rule of thumb. When you don't believe that you're worthy of prosperity flowing into your life, then you'll attract precisely what you do believe, which is, of course, a flow of scarcity and lack. If you believe that attracting money into your life is in some way inconsistent with the spiritual consciousness, then you erect barriers of resistance to stop this flow. If you desire to live an abundant life and you're attracting the opposite, then obviously you're energetically out of balance. Your desire is highly spiritual, but what you offer that desire is your feeling of unworthiness, and the universe being what it is, it submits back to you precisely what you believe about being undeserving. To change this idea and rebalance yourself on this scale, you need to realign your desire with the energy of your thinking. You need to keep reminding yourself that you are a divine piece of God. Feeling as if you're unworthy of God's abundance is the same as denying your spiritual essence and insulting your Creator as well. Remember that you came here to be just like God, but you broke away from that idea when you believed more in your separation than in your unity with your source. Begin to change this out of balance attitude by cultivating an inner affirmation until it becomes second nature. Silently repeat something similar to, I am a piece of God, a divine, individualized expression of God. I am worthy and deserving of all that God is and all that flows into my life. The abundance I desire is on its way, and I will do everything I can to avoid blocking and resisting this divinely inspired flow. Number 4, I have limited abilities and talents. If you hold a belief in your mind that you don't possess the ability or talent to attract abundance, then you've weighed your balance scale with a lifetime supply of scarcity. This is a huge symptom of resistance, masquerading as an excuse for why you're coming up short on the prosperity balance beam. Reread the observation made by Anne Reid. She didn't say it's the degree of talent that determines how far a person will rise. She said, emphatically, the degree to which he thinks is the determining factor. Your inner vision will trump your innate talent every time. In fact, now, and this is the crucial part, you must become the abundance that you desire. That's right, you must be it, rather than looking for it outside of yourself. These 3 steps help you eliminate the idea that you're where you are because of a dearth of talent. Number 1, banish the excuse of no talent. 2, create an inner picture of attracting prosperity. And 3, act as if by being what you desire. You're as talented as you've decided to be up until now. Change the picture, and miracle of miracles, you change your talents as well. I was frequently told as a young boy, and even as a college student, that I didn't possess the necessary skills or talent to be a writer or a public speaker. It wasn't until I decided to follow my own inner pictures that my talents began to be heard. Why? Because the more I pursued my life from the balance point of what felt right for me, the more practice I gained, and the more practice, the more the universe and I aligned. In that alignment, I attracted and recognized all of the opportunities and guidance available to me. Had I listened to those who professed to know better concerning my talents, I would have attracted precisely what I was believing, an absence of ability. Number 5, I've never been lucky. The universe that you live in and that lives in you operates on energy and energy alone. Nothing happens until something moves, said Albert Einstein. Everything is vibrating, even what seems to be motionless. Your universe functions with the law of attraction, meaning that energy matches up with similar energy. Your thoughts are vibrations of energy. Low thoughts, those that are out of balance with source energy, attract low energy responses from the universe. High spiritually based thoughts activate identical vibrations that bring you what you desire in harmony with your source. That being said, there's no room for luck in the universe. If you have an accident, you aren't unlucky and you're not at fault. You're simply a vibrational match to whatever you're colliding with. Luck will disappear as a factor. Number 6, it's always been that way. When you use your personal history to justify why you're presently out of balance on the abundance scale, you're really saying, I have a long history of attracting scarcity into my life, and I intend to continue doing precisely the same thing. Thinking that the past is responsible for your continued insufficiency is a major source of resistance. You've probably been taught that if you don't pay attention to the mistakes of the past, you're bound to repeat them. Here's my take on that advice. Keeping your thoughts on the mistakes of the past guarantees that you'll continue manifesting them in the present. I think you're better off tossing off your personal history of any deficiencies that have surfaced in your life. Refuse to think about what's failed to materialize unless you're hoping for more of the same. Avoid talking about your bleak past. Don't identify yourself as someone whose childhood or early childhood was characterized by dearth and paucity. Instead, look upon your entire history as a series of steps you absolutely needed to take in order to bring you the present realization of your endless potential for abundance. Be grateful for all that failed to show up, then shift from resistance to the direction of manifesting your desires and rebalance your thinking so that it matches up with those desires. Affirm, it is my intention to think thoughts that vibrate perfectly with my desire to be abundant in all areas of my life. I release any and all thoughts that put my focus and therefore my pulling power on what has or hasn't been. This is the key to restoring balance. Number 7, I don't know how to think abundance for myself. When you're convinced that prosperity consciousness is akin to a foreign language, once again, you've opted to resist rather than allow. You may not believe that you have the capacity to think in the ways that I've established in this chapter, but I assure you that you do in spades. You, the Rockefellers, the Hartfords, and the Kennedys all emanated from the same source of unlimited abundance. It is you, and you are it. Your belief that you can't think in these ways exists only because you've allowed yourself to believe in your separation from your source. You can think abundance even if you've never practiced it in your life. Right now, in this moment, you can initiate the practice of allowing only prosperous thoughts to live in your consciousness. Replace I don't even know how to think like this with I am abundant. I attract prosperity. I am in balance with this desire, and I will not think in any other way. That's how new habits are created. Make this your reality, one thought at a time. To paraphrase Ernest Holmes, all of this adds up to expressing your life to fulfill God's law of abundance. Your existence is a gift from a thriving, plentiful source of well-being. Being in balance means that you're expressing life by radiating this awareness with your thoughts. Consequently, your expectations support a beautifully balanced life in form. This message from the great Sufi poet Rumi encourages you to begin each day with high vibrations of expectations that you're open to messages from your source. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. I'm going to read that again. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. I remember this every morning as I awake in what is actually the middle of the night for most people. And that morning breeze reveals secrets to me at the dawn of every new day. You're entitled to all of God's blessings. Being in balance is one of the secrets. Try it. And whatever you do, don't go back to sleep. Wow, that was chapter 5 called, I'm just going back to the beginning of the chapter, that was chapter 6. Sorry, that was chapter 6. You can't discover light by analyzing the darkness, balancing your desire for prosperity with your habits of scarcity. This is Linda G. Robert. You're back in the groove again, coach, helping you live your best life now so you can love what you do. Stay tuned for chapter 7, and I'm also going to create a video on love in our 60s because a lot of this spoke to me. So stay tuned for that as well. Have yourself a wonderful day now. Bye-bye.